Hi guys, welcome back to Waxing On. It's Friday, and as you know on Friday it can be a mix of topics we cover. Today we're looking at one, and do I call it country? Do I call it folk? Rock and roll? Yeah, it's a bit of all of those. It's another singer-songwriter, and you know how hard it is to define those. And this one, like the rest we've looked at, have really created a style all their own. Who I'm talking about today is John Prine. Now, I really didn't become aware of John Prine until the late 70s, 1979, 1980, with the album Pink Cadillac. Now, I did recognize his music. I had heard it before, and if you remember our episode on John Allen Cameron, he had included two John Prine tunes in his material, and that's where I'd first heard it, although I didn't know it was John Prine at the time. And the songs were Please Don't Bury Me and Spanish Hornpipe. Both of them very quirky, very interesting in the writing, but it was hard to define the style. Now, John Prine had developed that kind of playing through his career in those first few albums, and then all of a sudden, 1979, he decided to crank out a rock and roll album. A lot of the fans didn't like it. This was the first album I had really heard. And it was the first time I'd actually seen him. He was on soundstage promoting, or doing a concert and promoting some of the songs from the album. So this was my first exposure to John Prine, and I really didn't know about all that previous style he was playing in. So this is what I thought he did. Now, basically, the critics, they weren't happy. The fans, they weren't happy. John Prine, I'll just give you, he gave a little description here of what he was aiming to do. He said, I wanted to do something noisy. Something like if you had a buddy with a band and you walked into his house and you could hear them practicing in the basement. A lot of different things going on in this album from the other ones I've heard. I mean, I have listened to some after this, and I do enjoy his style. I do enjoy what he was doing, but I still keep coming back to this because this was my first exposure to him. This is what made me want to check out more of John Prine. And the album had not a lot of originals. I think he only wrote about half the tunes, the rest were covers. But it was, again, more rocky. There's a few songs that are more in the style of what I'd expect, kind of more folky or more country. But I'll give you an idea of what we've got on here. And maybe you'll recognize some. Chinatown, Automobile, Killing the Blues, No Name Girl, Saigon, Cold War, Baby Let's Play House, Down by the Side of the Road, How Lucky, and You Bangy Stomp. Now, a lot of different styles in there, but to tell you the truth, my most favorite song out of the whole album was that more folky version of How Lucky. It was excellent, and if you're online, you can find he's got a great version of it where he's sitting on the step just playing it for him and another guy. And it's really not a lot of band in there. It's not rock. And to me, maybe that's more of the style of what people expected from John Prine. Chinatown, Saigon, those kind of albums, or those kind of songs on the album were a lot more rock oriented, had a lot more punch to them, and his singing style is very different from what you hear on other albums. I know a lot of people maybe haven't heard of this one. It didn't show up in a lot of places. I remember when I tried to look for it to buy a digital copy, it was hard to find. It really wasn't as much in his catalog as what the traditional John Prine albums were. But if you can find it, I know it's on the streaming networks because it's on there today, just checking. And if you can find it, it's worth having a listen to. If you're a John Prine fan, if you came to him later in his career, or if you started out with him when he was first making albums, and you haven't had a chance to check this one out, it's a whole different side of what he does. And to me, while they hated it, I thought it was one of his best albums. And again, that may have just been because that was my initial exposure to him. And, that kind of got me interested in him to begin with. So I kind of have a special spot for that album to begin with. Personnel on there, we got John Prine on guitar and vocals. Bass was Tom Pickles Pedarski, Billy Lee Riley on guitar, N.G. Veras on drums, John Burns guitar, Leo LeBlanc on guitar, Howard Levy on harmonica, keyboards, and saxophone, and I've heard that name a few times, Jerry Phillips guitar, and Helen Duncan backing vocals. I'm going to say, when we look at it, Killing the Blues, No Name Girl, Cold War, Baby Let's Play House, and You Bangy Stomp, all tunes that were not written by John Prine. So about half the album is written by somebody else. And some of them are, Elvis tunes. Some of them are just classic rock and roll songs that he's covered. And I know the critics didn't think he did a great job of covering them, but I'll tell you the truth, a lot of them I'd never heard before. So I thought John's version was excellent. I'm not comparing it to a previous one. And again, if you come in with open ears and just listen to what he's got on there, it's a whole different John Prine than we've been used to, especially near the end of his career. So that's it for today. We're looking at Pink Cadillac, an excellent John Prine album if you can find it, but again, one that wasn't well received, but certainly well worth a listen. So that's it for Friday. Another week gone by. We'll be heading into March by next week. Everybody, take care, stay safe. Thanks for stopping by.